Hey, so this is Chetna from ChetChat. We've done about 100 videos and you still ask me, why is the show called ChetChat? So I thought I'll clarify. I'm Chetna and the show is called ChetChat from me. But for today, you guys have loved our law videos. So we've got someone else here with us who topped an exam called AILET, which is the All India Law Entrance Test for the National Law University in Delhi. So I'd like to welcome today Dhanishta Mittal. So first of all, Dhanishta, huge congratulations on your All India Rank 1 at the AILET. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
But tell me, which are the other law entrance exams that you took?
Well, I actually kept my options open. So I gave 5 different law entrance exams. The first one was Symbiosis Entrance Test, after which I had the AILET exam. Then I gave the CLAT entrance. I gave the MHCET and also at the end I gave the LSAT India.
Okay, lovely. So a lot of my viewers, we've done 2 videos particularly on CLAT.
Okay.
And we've also spoken to a student who did well at the CLAT. Now you've really cracked the AILET. But for people watching the show, what is the difference between these 5 exams?
Well, basically, the first 4 of them are almost on the same lines. LSAT India is more of an intensive English-based exam,
right,
as compared to the others, which test your ability in various other sections also.
Okay. So now looking at the AILET in particular, so how many questions are there in the paper?
The AILET exam is a 150-mark paper,
okay,
which is again divided into 5 sections.
Right.
English 35 marks, GK 35 marks, Logic 35 marks, Legal 35 marks, and Math a 10 mark.
Okay. There is no negative mark.
There is no negative marking. Right.
Okay. So 1.5 hours,
150 questions. It's a task.
Yeah.
It is a task.
Now tell me, you took the paper, were you expecting this rank 1?
Well, not actually. This year's paper has by far been the toughest law exam I've ever given.
Oh.
So expecting, honestly, I didn't expect clearing the exam, as I've said in the other interviews as well, let alone getting an AIR 1, and this came like a really, really big surprise when I got the news.
Okay, so for all of you, if you find that exam tough going forward, don't lose heart.
Don't, definitely not.
Looking at the paper, there's also this notion that there's some unpredictability in the pattern one year to the next.
That's absolutely true, because I think I'd put it this way, the CLAT and the AILET entrance exam are absolutely capricious. They are unpredictable. You just cannot have any expectations, or rather they say be prepared for the worst and expect the best.
Okay, so let's look at this year's paper. What was surprising for you this year?
Okay, let's begin with English. It's been a record for all the entrances, for all the AILET entrance papers that have been. There's always been a reading comprehension of say 5 to 7 marks each. This year, there was absolutely no reading comprehension, and we as kids were backing on that particular portion. Okay, maybe that section or that topic in English can fetch us marks,
right,
but it was absolutely replaced by a 10-mark closed test.
A closed test?
A closed test.
So what is that?
It's basically a fill in the blank.
Right.
That could test your ability in say prepositions, in tenses, in synonym, antonym, or for that matter anything.
Okay. And have you ever seen this in any, like, did you previous year's papers?
Not AILET, but I have seen them in the CLAT entrance previously.
Okay.
Never an AILET paper.
Okay. So if somebody prepares for CLAT and does the past papers for CLAT and AILET and the other exams,
right,
for past 5-7 year papers, you think they would cover most of the type of questions?
Yes, that is true. If you're giving either of the entrances or any one of them, if you refer to all of the papers, I think you're broadly covering whatever topics you're going to encounter in the paper. So you need to probably refer to all of them and say a past 7 to 8 year paper.
Okay. So Dhanishta, you've taken 5 exams this year and I'm sure you've done really well in all of them. So where are you headed now?
Well, despite getting an AIR 1 in AILET, I am heading to Nalsar, Hyderabad.
Okay.
Right.
And you're not going to Delhi. Any particular reason?
Well, actually, this is more of a judgment based on the placements and the recruitment and the alumni strength, since they've been established years ago as compared to NLU Delhi, which is an upcoming institute.
So Dhanishta, we spoke about AILET being a paper-based test,
right,
and CLAT being an online test. How does that pose any challenge to you when you're actually taking the exam?
Okay, so this is a really important question, I'd put it rather. AILET is a paper-based test, and CLAT being an online test, all you really have to do is when you're answering the question, it's a mere click. As compared to AILET, where you actually have to circle the option.
Right.
So overall, I'd put it out of a 1.5 hour paper, I spent 10 minutes just circling the options.
Oh, okay.
So in case if you're really inclined doing only AILET and not really being focused on CLAT, then I would suggest you to do the paper-based exam only, which is one thing that I probably didn't do while I was preparing for the entrance.
Okay.
Right.
So prepare everything in the same way, but do those physical paper-based tests as well,
right.
for AILET.
Right.
Okay, superb. Now coming to material.
Okay.
You know, that's a big question that all of them want to know is which are the recommended books, where do they get them? If I know you went to a coaching institution,
right.
but should they go to a coaching institution or not? And what is the kind of stuff? So
it's more important to have a mentor than really enroll yourself for coaching institute, because that mentor will not only be your support but would also guide you as far as your weaknesses and strengths are concerned.
Okay.
He can be of a much better help than the coaching institution really.
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay, so and how would you get a mentor?
Maybe in case if you have a senior who's right now studying in a law school, maybe he can be your mentor, or a coaching. If you have already enrolled yourself for a coaching institution, then I think you'd find a mentor there itself.
Okay,
Right.
superb. Now coming to material, is there any books that you can recommend? Or?
I think if you have enrolled yourself for a coaching institution, referring to their material would definitely not suffice.
Not suffice.
Not suffice.
Okay,
right.
okay.
There are a lot other books that you should refer to. If we go like subject-wise, I'd say for English, I refer to the CAT book by Arun Sharma.
Okay, for the CAT entrance
CAT
exam.
entrance exam, because I think the level of CAT more difficult than CLAT.
Okay.
So I probably had an edge over the others during my preparation itself, referring to that book.
Yeah, nice, because that is a postgraduate
That is a
exam.
postgraduate exam as compared to this being an undergraduate exam.
Okay, so you did that. Any particular book that you used?
No, for English, the vocab, I would just go to this particular site, which is the rootsandprefixes.com.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would probably give me the root of the word, and if ever I encountered the root, I knew that would be the meaning. Like the word mal. So mal is something that refers to bad.
Right.
So in case if the word is malified, know it's something that's negative, it's evil, it's demonic.
Right.
So that is how my preparation for vocab went. Then math, I refer to this book called Quantitative Aptitude by R.S. Agarwal.
Okay.
It's a blue color book. For static GK, I think a lot of people recommend Pearson Manual.
Right.
But I did not really refer to any book for my static GK preparation. I did my preparation from this YouTube channel called Study IQ.
Okay.
Right.
And
it's basically a YouTube channel meant for people preparing for UPSC.
Right, the IAS.
The IAS and the IRS examination, and I thought their material was pretty sufficient for my static GK preparation.
And this is primarily for the static, but the current affairs?
People generally would say that you should refer to the newspapers.
Right.
But if you do not really have a penchant, just like I didn't, for reading the newspapers, you can probably switch over to a lot of online forums, websites, and mobile apps, which I did. To name a few, there's this website called gktoday.in, mobile application called Jagran Josh. There is another mobile application called Online Theory, Daily GK. So there are actually a lot of them. There is also Day-to-Day GK. These particular online sites, I think they should suffice your daily GK preparation.
Okay.
And once you're doing your daily GK, you need to also start revising. So you start your preparation in say June, and you're doing your daily GK, and say in October you need to start revising what you did in June.
Right, of course.
So that you can probably refer to this site called CLAT Gyan. They give you monthly compendiums that will cover every day the major news of each day. That helps you revise your entire monthly GK. Also on the Study IQ channel, there's actually a weekly revision GK that comes. So then you can also revise your weekly GK. Legal reasoning, I think if you have enrolled yourself for the classes, they'll more or less introduce you to the legal principles, and they'll test your legal reasoning based on these principles. But one probably warning or one caveat that I should give you would be, do not rely on these principles solely. While writing your paper, ensure that you read those principles thoroughly, because the AILET or the CLAT committee tends to jumble it.
Oh, really?
Right, really. Like, there was this question. There's a particular principle which says kidnapping is an offense.
Right.
But when we were actually writing the paper and I read the principle, it stated kidnapping is not an offense. So
okay. So they're actually testing your logical way to look at the
They're
law.
not testing your preconceived knowledge of law. They're testing your, presence of mind, or I'd put it rather.
Right.
So there's one caveat that I'd give you is, despite knowing all these principles, say there are 100, 150 principles, you should not, be of the opinion that I know all of them. Because you never know, in the entrance, they might twist it some or the other way.
Right.
So do keep in mind that you have to read the principle no matter what.
Okay.
Also, there's another section in the legal called legal GK.
Yes.
So you need to keep in touch with your daily GK and also be thorough with your constitution if you have to really ace through the legal GK section.
And any tips on how they can do that?
Like, there are a couple of constitution articles, specific ones that you need to remember. Say a 123, article 123 talks about ordinance. So there are a lot of such articles, the important ones that are highlighted, that need to be remembered thoroughly.
Okay.
Because they ask you in the legal GK section, there was a question, Uniform Civil Code is mentioned in which article of the Constitution? And the options are very close, so you cannot really guess. Also, talking about the capricious nature of the CLAT entrance, this is what happened this year. There were 19 questions from legal GK that came in the AILET test, and all of them were absolutely unexpected. Like, one question I can pretty much remember was a quote from a particular eminent personality, and I had absolutely no clue who that personality was. Besides, there was no scope for me to guess, because all of them were eminent persons.
Right.
There was the option stated Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln. I literally don't remember, but then there was no way I could even guess. So just the thing that you do not need to be necessarily stressed about certain questions. Try to get the ones that you already know.
Right. And since there's no negative marking, you
can
just
probably just give
try
yourself
your luck.
Right. That's one advantage of AILET, that you can just try your fortune. Maybe she's in your favor.
Yeah.
In CLAT, we had expected legal GK because it had a really substantial part in the legal section in AILET.
Right.
So we were really backing on that in the CLAT. But they took us by surprise when they gave 15 Latin maxims instead of the legal GK section.
Okay.
So we had absolutely not expected that, because this section, this Latin maxim section, is covered in English and never in legal section.
So this is what, like foreign words?
Foreign words, that's right. It's foreign words, or maybe the phrases that are used in the courts. Right.
Okay.
Like, for example, ubi jus ibi remedium, which means for every wrong there's a remedy. So these kind of things, we literally didn't expect that, and then those 15 questions, and everybody was taken by surprise.
Oh dear, that explains why you thought it was such a difficult exam.
Paper, absolutely. There are two sections in logical. One is the analytical section and the other is the verbal section. So for analytical section, I think there's this book by R.S. Agarwal called Verbal and Non-Verbal Reasoning. Pretty much suffice your analytical preparation, which broadly includes series and odd numbers, or maybe arrangements and all of those topics.
Right.
And for verbal reasoning, I think there's this book by M.K. Pandey. That should more or less, cover your verbal logic section.
Okay.
Also, since I faced a lot of problem while doing verbal logic, I refer to the GMAT reference sources online, and also the LSAT material. Since I told you it's more or less intensive, it's a lot, based on your intensive reading.
Right.
So the LSAT verbal logic should really help you in your verbal logic preparation.
Fantastic. And when you say the GMAT, is this like the critical reading section?
The critical reasoning section, absolutely.
Okay,
Right.
which comes-
Also, this also the book that I told you about, Arun Sharma, the CAT book,
Right.
that has like a little portion concentrating on critical reasoning. So if you do that, again, that will be of help in your verbal logic section.
Okay. And are there any books or notes, etc., that they can buy that cover everything together?
Okay, yeah, that reminds me of this book by LexisNexis. It's called the CLAT Study Guide. It's a set of 5 books covering each section. So if you buy that, you'll have 5 different books that will more or less be a guide for all the 5 sections in the entrance.
Superb, superb. So we've got all the preparation done for CLAT, for AILET, for Symbiosis,
And the Maharashtra
and the
CET.
Maharashtra CET. Now coming to LSAT, which is another very popular exam and kind of gets left out in the discussion. You know?
True.
So tell me, there's this notion people have that the LSAT is easier than the CLAT. How true is that?
Well, actually, that is again a perception. I don't really think if it's the reality. Probably because people think LSAT doesn't necessarily require intensive preparation as compared to CLAT. Because the sections in LSAT are English, logical reasoning, that too is verbal, and only one section is analytical reasoning. So you do not necessarily need to, devote a lot of time to that particular entrance as compared to CLAT, which has subjects like math, which is a nightmare for most of the people, and GK, which requires a lot of devotion from your part for the entrance. So I think that is probably the reason people have this notion.
Yeah. So in LSAT, you mentioned that there's a lot of reading that the child needs to do in the exam hall.
Yes, actually, that is a really big task because you have a lot of reading. You have a lot of passages that are presented before you in the entrance that you need to read, as compared to AILET, where you actually have sitters. You have just one, probably 10-second questions, like a vocab question thrown at you, and you can just do it in a second or something. So otherwise, as compared to LSAT, where you have like, say, 15-20 line passages, we have to read them literally and then answer the questions. On top of that, in CLAT you have 4 options, in LSAT you have 5 options, and all of those are also like 2-3 lines. You need to read them also, each of them. So that's why it is a more tedious task, I believe.
Right. Is it a longer paper as well?
Yeah, it's a 2-hour 20-mark paper. As compared to CLAT, or CLAT is a 2-hour paper and AILET is a 1.5-hour paper.
Okay. So you're reading for 2 hours, 20 minutes. So I guess it's good input, because if there's somebody out there who's fond of reading, naturally good at English, and doesn't have the time, perhaps studies in an international school, doesn't have the time to prepare for CLAT because of the heavy IB program, maybe.
True.
So do you
for
think
that person, I think LSAT would be something to back on, because yes, as you told me, somebody who has an inclination to English, or somebody who is really fond of reading, I think for that person this entrance is a really crucial one, maybe.
So a lot of people I've met talk about the mock tests in a big way playing a role. So what was your experience like?
I think mock tests definitely play a very, very important role. I cannot really stress on the vitality of this particular, preparation through mock tests. I think that probably helps you, first of all, in the time management, because you have 200 questions, 120 minutes, or you have 150 questions and you have 90 minutes. So definitely mock tests help you in your time management. Besides, they help you encounter a varied assortment of questions. So it's like since I told you about the unpredictability of these papers, you never know what's going to be presented before you.
Right.
Like there was this one CLAT paper where English is 40 marks and all the 40 marks was passage. Reading comprehension. So there were 4 passages, each of 10 marks. So if you encounter various different mocks, maybe at least 1 or 2 of them might be on those lines. So that kind of gets you accustomed to the kind of paper, maybe. Also, in case if you have enrolled yourself for one coaching institution, it's not necessary that you rely on that mock test series only. Because then you get accustomed to only one type of paper. And CLAT, AILET having historically an unpredictable nature, you need to get yourself, adapted to various types of mocks. The pattern needs to be changed for you to get, really adjusted probably.
Okay. So roughly how many do you think? How many types of mocks?
I think three probably would be good, would be a good number.
3 series.
3 series,
Okay.
like from 3 different institutions. Also, when you're starting your preparation, you should skim through your past year papers that give you an idea about what your approach for the exam would be.
Okay. So when you're studying, you kind of know, okay, from this information, how could possibly this be questioned in the paper?
Absolutely. So you just get an idea. Like if you go through the GK papers of the past year, you have this particular, set pattern. As far as static GK is concerned, like they may ask you 2 to 3 questions from international summits, or say 1 or 2 questions from international awards like the Nobel Prize or maybe the Pulitzer Prize. So you have you can actually jot down, you can join the dots and you can decide what your approach for the entrance would be.
And another thing that they often think about, if there's a student in 9th or 10th who's pretty much decided that I want to go on, take these exams and I want to become a lawyer. Then in the 11th and 12th, there are a few options available to him in terms of which board they should study.
Right.
So what would be your recommendation?
Well, this was actually a catch-22 for me as well. Since I did my schooling 9th and 10th from ICSE board,
right.
I was more inclined to do schooling in my 11th and 12th. Right. But this thing, I don't know, randomly just struck me that probably if I continue doing my ISC in 11th and 12th, schooling would take up a lot of my time.
Yes.
And I would not be able to focus as much on CLAT. So that's the reason I switched to the HSC, that is the Maharashtra State Board.
Right.
Because then the college, the timings for the college are comparatively less.
Right.
Also the portion, the burden, it automatically reduces.
Yeah, and the exams get over
Earlier,
for
yes.
sure. Wow.
So I had a lot of time
Yes.
to devote to my CLAT preparation, and I think the really cream time, or I'd say the really crucial time for your preparation is the last few months after your boards.
There's just one last question I want to ask you, because typically students take this while they're doing their year 12, like you said.
Right.
You started preparing in the June of year 12.
12th, right.
So you've got your 12th standard boards. And you've got this heavy, engaging, sort of all year round preparation that you need to do. So what is the best way for students to manage all this?
So basically when you're starting your preparation, say June to October, you probably should focus only on CLAT.
Only on CLAT?
Only on CLAT. Okay. Like maybe say a 1 or 2 hour doing your
School
12th would be enough, because once your November month starts, you have your pre-boards pressure, you have your boards pressure coming up very soon, you have various, orals and everything. So then that span of time, say from November to, you can say March until your exams, that time your focus should be your 12th, but you should never neglect your GK.
Absolutely.
Your daily GK is something that must continue even when you are writing your boards.
Okay.
And once you're done with your boards, then all you have to do is just prepare for CLAT.
And your mock tests and your past papers.
Yeah, because in the bracket of November to March, you're going to have a lot of mock tests on your portal that needs to be, given attention to.
Right.
So after you're done with your boards, that's what you should be concentrating on.
Okay.
Right.
I think that was great information, Dhanishta. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And wishing all of you good luck. And wishing you a lot of luck at NALSAR too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for watching till the end. And you know that we love your questions and we love to answer them. So put them all down at the bottom of the video. You want me to answer them, you want Dhanishta to answer them, put everything down and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And press that subscribe button, keep watching a new video every Friday, and go back and look up the tons of videos that we've already done for you. So happy watching.